Welcome back, Zheads. Sorry it took so long to get another video out. Life has been pretty crazy, but this has always been sat in the back of my mind, and I was so shocked and so chuffed that a few people have listened to these. So let's carry on and do another one. We will be sticking with Vettius Valens again today and continuing in logical fashion, although we have had a request and we will do that soon, I promise. But today we are going to look at the 50 terms. So get yourself comfortable, chill out, relax, turn on, tune in, and drop out. The 50 terms. The first 6 degrees of Aries belong to Jupiter. Temperate, robust, prolific, beneficent. The next 6 degrees belong to Venus. Cheerful, clever, radiant, even, pure, and handsome. The following 8 degrees fall under the ambiguous influence of Mercury. Changeable, clever, idle, windy, stormy, full of thunder and lightning. The next 5 degrees belong to Mars. Baneful, fiery, unsteady, characteristic of rash, wicked men. The next 5 degrees belong to Saturn. Cold, barren, malicious, and injured. Taurus. The first 8 degrees of Taurus belong to Venus. Prolific, with many children. Moist, downward trending, convicted, hating their children. The next 6 degrees belong to Mercury. Intelligent, sensible, criminal, with few offspring, sinister and fatal. The next 8 degrees belong to Jupiter. Great-hearted, bold, lucky, ruling and beneficent, magnanimous, temperate, loving modesty. The fourth term, the next 5 degrees, belong to Saturn. Sterile, barren, a eunuch, a vagabond, censorious, theatrical, gloomy, and toilsome. The final 3 degrees belong to Mars. Masculine, tyrannical, fiery, harsh, murderous, a looter of temples and a criminal, not an unknown one, rather destructive and short-lived. The first degrees of Gemini belong to Mercury. Temperate, with fine weather, intelligent, versatile, skilled, active, poetic, and prolific. The next 6 degrees belong to Jupiter. Competitive, temperate, with fine weather, prolific, luxuriant, and beneficent. The third term, 5 degrees, belongs to Venus. Blossoming, artistic, addicted to plays and mimes, poetic, a contest winner, popular, cheerful, and prolific. The fourth term, 7 degrees, belong to Mars, much burdened with no brothers, having few children, a wanderer with good income, destructive, bloody, inquisitive. The last 6 degrees belong to Saturn. Temperate, a procurator having possessions, intellectual, with a wide knowledge, distinguished, noted for intelligence, an arranger of great matters, most famous. The first 7 degrees of Cancer belong to Mars, hurling thunderbolts, moved in different directions, uneven, contradictory in his wishes, manic, prolific, destructive, and in the end, rather base. The next 6 degrees belong to Venus, prolific, censorious, moist, changeable, skilled, popular, promiscuous. The following 6 degrees belong to Mercury, precise, a robber, a leader in public matters, a tax gatherer, in the public eye, rich, wealth producing. The 4th term, 7 degrees, belongs to Jupiter, kingly, imperious, glorious, judging, great-hearted, temperate, ruling, entirely noble. The final 4 degree belong to Saturn. In this term, everything is water, moist, poor in personal property, and in the end, quite needy. The first 6 degrees of Leo belong to Jupiter. Experienced, masculine, imperious, and in general having leadership qualities. Active, eminent, with no mean traits. The next 5 degrees belong to Venus. Very temperate, yielding, talented, luxurious. The 3rd term, 7 degrees, belongs to Saturn, having much experience, fearful, scientific, naturally clever, narrow, religious, with many children, searching out secret law, barren without offspring. The next 6 degrees belongs to Mercury, addicted to plays and mimes, popular, scholastic, guiding, prescribing, intelligent. This term is barren and characteristic of long-lived men. The final 6 degrees belongs to Mars, very base and monstrous, destructive, injured, torpid, censored, unlucky. The first 7 degrees of Virgo belong to Mercury. Lofty, procuratorial, an arranger. Handsome, organizing great affairs. Most intelligent, entirely noble and eminent. This term is not, however, lucky in love. This misfortune is generally true of Virgo, especially in this term and in that of Venus. This term causes men who are open to criticism. The term of Venus causes those who err constantly. They fall conspicuously short in regard to boys. The next 10 degrees belong to Venus, censored, wronging their marriage and falling into difficulty because of this. Censored, wronging their marriage, no. The next 10 degrees belong to Venus, censored, wronging their marriage and falling into difficulty. Because of this, lucky in theatrical matters. They are most unnatural in their passion, especially when Saturn is in aspect. When Mercury is in aspect, they commit adultery. When Jupiter is in aspect, they commit a great number of sins, which are forgivable. but still there are condemnations. When the sun is in aspect, they commit hidden actions. When the moon is in aspect, they meet with reverses and political opposition. If this term is beheld by malefics, it causes prostitution. The third term, 4 degrees, belongs to Jupiter, agricultural, proper, reclusive but not ignorant. Men born under this term are trustees, fruitful and upright. The fourth term, 7 degrees, belongs to Mars, masculine, harsh, public demagogues, night prowlers, counterfeiters, impostors. These degrees assault men and lead them to chains, mutilation, tortures, and imprisonment. The last 2 degrees belong to Saturn, monstrous, chilled, destructive, short-lived, the term of a deluded man. The first 6 degrees of Libra belong to Saturn, kingly, lofty, effective, especially for day births, but disturbed for night births. These degrees are also barren, moist, and destructive. The next 5 degrees belong to Mercury. Businesslike, craftworking, marketing, the term of instruments of exchange and numbers, collecting, in general just and intelligent. The third term, 8 degrees, belongs to Jupiter. Wealth producing, but despite that, this term is characteristic of unlucky men, cheerlessly hoarding their possessions, living without ostentation, with a sordid lifestyle, with no appreciation of beauty, censorious and not, of course, blessed with children. The fourth term, 7 degrees, belongs to Venus. Loving beauty, loving crafts, craftsmen themselves, such as sculptors, painters, and engravers. In general, this term is rhythmic, pious, mild, and slow, fortunate, making progress without effort, exceedingly fortunate in his marriage, and lucky in everything. The remaining 4 degrees belong to Mars, ruling, leading, lucky in all martial affairs, optimistic and spirited, steady, successful, great-hearted, not, however, with many brothers, or lucky with those he has. The first 7 degrees of Scorpio belong to Mars, easily upset and disturbed, unsteady, irascible, frank speaking, arrogant, with few children but many brothers, uneven in fortune, inflamed, very appropriate for nativities which promise campaigns and travel abroad. The next 4 degrees belong to Venus, lucky in marriage, pious, loved by everyone, loving children, wealthy, selected for every office, living graciously. The third term, 8 degrees, belongs to Mercury, military, competitive, prize-winning, and where words are concerned, bitter, contentious, not to be despised. These degrees are also prolific and fecund. In general, they plan mischief, especially against those who attempt evil or do it. The fourth term, 5 degrees, belongs to Jupiter. Talented, lucky, high priestly, glorified in gold, purple, and the high offices appropriate to the inherent greatness of the nativity. This term is beneficent and as a whole loves men and gods. The last 6 degrees belongs to Saturn. Punitive with few children or brothers, haters of their own relatives, poisonous, melancholic, and misogynists, having secret wounds, and in general very punitive and cursing fate. They are hated both by gods and men. They resist their superiors and are despised by their inferiors. The first 12 degrees of Sagittarius belong to Jupiter, active men. These degrees are damp but temperate, dabbling in all crafts and skills, prolific with many children and brothers, yet poor. The next 5 degrees belong to Venus, temperate, prominent, victorious, prize-winning, pious, honoured by both the masses and by the rulers, blessed with children and brothers, living with many women. The third term, 4 degrees, belongs to Mercury, verbal, subtle, active, producing eternal verities, philosophical and in general prominent in science and wisdom. Fond of learning if Mercury inclines, but if Mars inclines, loving weapons and tactics. The next 5 degrees fall to Saturn. Sterile and baneful, cold, harmful, characteristic of base and completely unlucky men. The next 4 degrees belongs to Mars. Hot, rash, violent, and shameless, destructive, except that this term is restless in all things. All the terms in Sagittarius indicate varied possibilities in all matters. The first 7 degrees in Capricorn belong to Mercury. Theatrical, comic, on the stage. Lying, whoring, seducing, covetous of others' things, of no reputation. Blessed, wealthy, but not of high rank. The next 7 degrees belongs to Jupiter. It brings vicissitudes of glory and infamy, wealth and poverty, largesse and public ridicule. This term is barren, having female or deformed children, of low rank, vulgar. The next 8 degrees belongs to Venus, profligate, lecherous, downward trending, thoughtless, censored, having their ends very much in doubt, not dying well nor steady in marriage. The 4th term, 4 degrees, belongs to Saturn. Severe, cheerless, alien, unlucky with their children and brothers, bloody and destructive, cold, pitiless, standoffish, malicious. Pitiless, standoffish, malicious, slow to act, but tricky. The last 4 degrees belong to Mars, lofty, prosperous, dictatorial, aiming at rule in everything, poor, destructive of their own relatives, wandering, loving solitude, quarrelsome to the end. The first 7 degrees of Aquarius belong to Mercury, rich, miserly, gladly hoarding wealth up to the measure of the nativity, intelligent, learned in the law, precisely defining everything, imperious, petty, careworn, loving education and all disciplines, supervisory, overseeing, philanthropic. The next 6 degrees belong to Venus, loving well, pious, wealthy without effort, profiting by sudden and unexpected good fortune, prosperous, seafaring. These are prolific degrees. It's beneficial for anyone born under these degrees to unite with old women, the feeble, or with eunuchs, and to gain advantage from the barren or the aged. The next 7 degrees belong to Jupiter, lucky, petty, lurking at home, careless of his reputation, living in obscurity, fortunate in his children, misanthropic. The next 5 degrees belong to Mars, diseased, particularly in the internal organs, troubled by lawsuits. This term is characteristic of wicked, intractable, and incapable men, except that those men readily attempt evil deeds. The remaining 5 degrees belong to Saturn, barren, moist, conceiving with difficulty, enfeebled, especially in the dura mater and the internal organs, afflicted with dropsy and fits, poor, with few brothers or children, envious, unlucky in their ends. The first 12 degrees of Pisces belong to Venus, cheery, vacant, downward trending.
Hello. Okay, thank you.
The first 12 degrees of Pisces belong to Venus, cheery, vacant, downward trending, luxurious, living graciously with a friendly greeting, celebrating, loving, making progress without effort, dear to the gods. The next 4 degrees belong to Jupiter, literary, learned, preeminent among the masses and victorious over everyone because of his worth, with many brothers, prolific with many children, having too many associates and brothers. The next 3 degrees belong to Mercury, second, ruling those of high rank with many friends, bounteous, loving their parents, charitable, pious, temperate. The next 9 degrees belong to Mars, active, naval warriors, bold guides attending success in mystic lore, plundering but then restoring, varied, not dying a natural death. The last 2 degrees belong to Saturn, enfeebled, moist, subject to fits, entirely unlucky. We have given instruction about what effect each degree produces. If the house ruler is located in a given term, the house ruler... Do that bit again. Do Saturn again, okay? The next 9 degrees belong to Mars, active naval warriors, bold guides attaining success in mystic lore, plundering but then restoring, varied, not dying a natural death. The last 2 degrees belong to Saturn, enfeebled, moist, subject to fits, entirely unlucky. If the house ruler is located in a given term, the house ruler will produce its proper effect as well, whether good or bad. Hope you enjoyed that, Zedheads. Sleep well, and I'll catch you soon.